And we're live. Hello and welcome everybody to the Wide World of Warhammer. With us today, we've got the reigning, defended, undisputed champions of the world, Team Australia. Not Alex Terrison, but Alex the Greek is here. How you doing, buddy?
Yeah, good. How are you?
Good, man.
I
Good.
was waiting to
Back
see how long
again.
it took you to notice that one.
I'm eagle-eyed, buddy. Australia's greatest athlete, the best export around, Matt Morrosoli. How you doing, buddy?
I'm excellent, mate. How about yourself?
Yeah, very well. Tickety-boo, as I like to say. Tickety-boo. As well as someone who we've never talked to before, but someone you may have seen around the New South Wales scene, Brodie Middleton. How you doing, buddy?
Yeah, good, mate. Thanks for having me.
No worries at all. So, Brodie, someone who we haven't talked to before, but I know is Australian, but has come from the UK back after a long stint. For people who've never heard of you, how long have you playing 40k or Warhammer for? And what's your 40k journey?
Yeah, I've been playing 40k for ages. I think my first tournament was, I want to say Arcanicon 2001. I would have been 12 or 13, and we were playing early 3rd edition. And then I kept playing all through school. I had a bit of a golden age, I would say, like through 4th and 5th ed, where I was at uni or just after uni playing in a bunch of tournaments all over Australia. Did reasonably well. I was playing with like Josh McGowan, Eric, like Diffie. All those guys were kind of the top guys in the scene. Did pretty well. I think Josh McGowan and I were like top 1 and 2 a couple of years in a row in Oz, which was really fun. Couldn't keep it up because I was in the army at the time, and I went to Afghanistan for most of 2012. And then by the time I got back, 6th and 7th ed were out, and they're absolute garbage. I absolutely hated both of those. I had no interest in playing 40k whatsoever in the Bark Star detachment fucking bullshit era. So I kind of gave it a bit of a miss. Plus I was outfield doing army stuff all the time, so it was fine. Then I moved to the UK in 2017. I went over to do my masters and get out of the army, and then got back into 40k because it was like about in the middle of 8th ed, and all the stuff I was reading online was really positive. Like I always judge 40k by like checking tournament armies and looking at like how much does this actually look coherent to like what 40k should look like, and 6th and 7th were the low point of that, and I think 8th kind of recovered that a bit. 9th is a bit wishy-washy, but generally 40k looks like 40k now rather than it did in the past. So go back in into it. I was in the UK, and anyone that hasn't been following it, the UK tournament scene has absolutely blown up over the last few years. Largely, 9th ed has been popular, but also the product of the UKTC, what Zach is putting out for LGT and all the other majors and super majors is super high standard. So he's providing really good product, like event space, which is really encouraging people to go to lots of events. Plus UK is really small, so you can travel. So I was going to kind of 250 plus player at super major every couple of months. I was going to like LGT was 750. Manchester GT was 450. We had even the local London GTs monthly were like 120 plus. Like there were weekends where there were 200 player majors or whatever that were 150 kilometers apart. It's just wild, like huge player numbers. Really, really cool. And those big events is why you started seeing a lot of the UK players take over the ITC rankings over the last couple of years, because the events are huge, they're consistent, and generating a lot of ranking points. So it's been really cool to be a part of that. I was lucky to do pretty well. Pretty much always play Elder. I'm a bit of an Elder tragic. Still managed to do pretty well. Had a few top 10 super major finishes. Won a couple of major GT level events. Went undefeated in the main round of both the last LGTs, and went in the top bracket. So things like that. I think I finished last year about 15th on the ITC roughly before LVO least. So and then I moved back to Australia, and literally no one knows who I am. It was pretty funny. Like I knew Eric, like McGowan, Diffie. That was basically it. I rock up to tournaments, and no one who has any idea about me. So that was cool. But I was really really privileged, really proud to be invited to play for Team Oz, which is awesome. So spent the last few months in all the group chats, getting to know everyone, talking about 40k, and then we're kind of in a bit of a mad prep phase now, which is really exciting.
Hooroo! Very exciting times ahead, definitely, with all the 10th edition leaks or like published articles and stuff like that coming out now. People are churning through them all, so it's very, very exciting times ahead. And so, thanks for joining. I'm sure we are talking about your UK experience and how that sort of translate over to Team Oz shortly. But to sort of sidetrack a bit, Matt. So it's been almost a year now since you guys won the whole damn thing. How does it feel? Like, has it settled in at all? Like, does it feel like you've been world champs, or does it still feel a bit like a pipe dream?
It's a bit strange, right? Like it's really cool when you sort of sit down and think about it. You're like, well, holy shit, we went and did that, you know. And especially when we got so close in Serbia, we played against England in whatever it was, 2019, whichever, the last one before COVID. I don't even remember what year it was. That whole, thing has become such a blur, right? But we were so close that year, and a few things didn't go away. And listen, we almost won back in Serbia, and then we had that massive sort of 3 cancelled event, planning stage where COVID kept stopping the event from happening, and it was a lot of work. Like, the team was mostly together, for 3 years. Like, 6 of the 8 players pretty much at any given time were the same players, in that one group. And, it really was like this culmination, like this, this massive undertaking. Like there were other teams, like teams in Europe, right, that were picking their teams 6 months before the event last year, but we had been together for, largely 3 years. And like, it's massive when you sit down and sort of think about it and you say, well, holy crap, we put this much work in and we went and we went and did this. But other days it's kind of just like, oh yeah, it's a thing I did last year. It really sort of like ebbs and flows, right? Because you'll speak to someone who you actually haven't spoken to since that happened, and they'll sort of tell you how cool they think it is that Australia put together a team that could win. And then you're reminded, like, holy shit, that is actually really, really cool. So definitely ebbs and flows, and it's not like it's unexciting or it's like, oh, it's just set in and it's boring and it's a thing that happened a while ago now. But I think, again, with the amount of time we put into that, that team last year, I think it kind of like has sort of, even winning has been overshadowed by the amount of time we spent together prepping and working on that. And it's exciting to be able to go back 2 years in a row, because we said there was a time a couple of years ago that we didn't know if it was going to be 1, 2, or 3 years until we could go and play again. So it's great. Like it's really exciting. I think it definitely ebbs and flows as to how much you think about how, like whether or not it's set in or not, I guess.
Yeah, sure. But like, it's safe to say you guys aren't going to get just to get a bit of pushover. I'm assuming you guys are there to win it again, right? Be back-to-back champs, obviously, right?
Look, the drive is probably different, right? Like having won it, I'm not saying that we're not putting our best foot forward at all, but I think the attitude last year was definitely very different to the attitude this year, and that might be a lot to do with the nature of not knowing what rule set we're playing, not knowing what books are going to be out, not knowing a lot of this stuff, right? Like, it's been really hard to have any meaningful preparation. The vibe is definitely different, but I think the goal is to go and do as well as we possibly can. It's not like, you and your mates are going to just see what happens. Like we're gonna give it a red hot crack. I think it's definitely a bit different. Everything kind of pales in comparison to the 3 years of being shut down and not being able to go. But like everyone wants to win, man. Like everyone wants to, go and really, like you said, no, I think Jeremy Martino said this to me. He's like, no one remembers that dude who wins one Grand Slam, but the guy who goes back to back to back, that's the people that you remember forever. And it's just like, just because you won once doesn't mean you don't have that drive to sort of go out there and keep pushing.
Yeah, absolutely. That's very well said by Martino. So speaking of someone, so Martino was part of the winning team last year, but you guys, as you said, like the team sort of has changed a lot. You got a lot of fresh blood into the team. So what's it like, I guess, having a bunch of fresh blood? That you said the drive's a bit different. Is it a concern, I guess, like the people aren't ready, or they're preparing as hard as you can and you're going to get them ready?
Oh, it's always a concern, right? Like I've played twice now at WTC, ETC events, and I've played at LVO a couple of times. So I've played a bunch of international tournaments, and like a lot of this is stuff you don't kind of know what you're going to get. You don't know. There are abrasive personalities. There are different ways of doing things. There are language barriers, and some people don't deal with that super well. We've definitely had, like even Chris did a fantastic job last year, but a couple of things, like just personality things, with people Chris played rubbed him the wrong way, and he probably wasn't quite ready for that. So it's always a concern when you got a bunch of new people, like especially on this scale, and especially when we're losing people like like Eric, probably more importantly like Hayden, Walduck, and Simon, because they had been multiple times, like they've had a lot of that experience playing. We'll call them like the shifty Euros. There aren't that many of them, but every now and then you get someone who's a bit angle shooty or whatever it might be, and like being able to deal with that's an actual skill that you need to sort of understand to be successful. But I really like who we've picked. I think that when players drop out, you don't have the luxury of having the best players possible. Like I think last year we probably had 6 or 7 of the best 8 players in the country playing on that team, and maybe we don't have that this year, but the gap's not that big. I think people with the right attitude, people with the right support can come pretty close to the team that we had last year.
Yeah, and people who are hungry and determined to play, that's the biggest thing you can have, right? Someone who's willing to put in the time and effort and studying, get those reps in. And yeah, it'll be exciting to see what happens. Someone who's new to the team, so Alex the Greek, so you're going there as support staff, like coaching staff. How excited are you? Like, keen?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't been in Europe since I was like 10, right? So this is going to be something major, for me, being able to have that, and, fair to say that the team, even though we have a lot of new people, we all get along, fairly well. So that's one thing that's, really on our back. And that's something that Liam was, making sure that he had, a really good set of people as well. Because we're not just there to win, we're also there to represent our brand at the end of the day. So, yeah, I think I'm going to have a hell of a good time. I'm actually bunking with Brodie, so we'll see if we do a few extra bits or bobs through our time in Belgium or not. But it's I'm excited. Bring it on.
Well, I'm sure Brodie spent a bunch of time in the UK. I'm sure he knows all the places in Belgium and backpacked through Europe, I'm sure, a couple of times. So he'll know all the best places to be and see.
Yep.
Yeah.
Though, unfortunately, we're missing Tomorrowland by a week. I think. That's,
we are. and I know people going to Tomorrowland as well, which is just funny. So, yeah. Soli, can you change the flights again?
No one will understand that. No one will understand that joke.
Liam banned us from having fun before the event. I want to put that on record.
Okay, no. I'm gonna explain this to you because the person in question actually won't mind. In Serbia, Adam Camilleri went over like 3 weeks early, and like, excuse me for being crass, he fucked his way through Serbia. Like, he was just like, he shacked up with some Serbian chick. He did no prep. And I don't blame him because that was like the first year we took a serious team. Every year before that, we just sort of sent whoever could go and it was a bit of fun. Right. But that is the reason why you're banned from doing anything else before the event starts because, it's happened once. You go do whatever you like afterwards. Like, don't get me wrong. But that is the reason why. I'm sorry, Adam. Like,
no
everyone
one
needs to know.
can fix that.
Look, I mean, look, there's a reason behind the rule, right? Sometimes when you see like those funny rules, it's like, how the hell did that happen? There's probably a very good story behind it. Does that change? So obviously you guys are defending champs now. So does that change to the War Masters, or are you guys allowing people to play for that? Maybe I guess. Matt,
yeah, I think we are planning that in the travel schedule. Yeah, I think we're pretty much all planning to play in War Masters. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. It differs, right? Like we had issues where, like the Serbia event, most of us played our teams list, and a few players who were undefeated, going into the second day, basically just had people standing there watching their games. And it doesn't matter too much when you're sitting there playing guard gun line goes pew pew, but it does matter when you're playing janky stuff. And obviously that's why Liam and I took such meme lists to Warmaster last year. But it's really good prep to play on the tables against, again, like test out the language barriers.
This year particularly because it's on 10th, right? Like just
exactly
getting those
right.
reps in is going to be huge. Yeah.
Well, that's it. I think it's weird to say it, but even like those 6 games you play are going to be like an actual chunk of your play testing. Like, you might play 30, 40 games if you're lucky between now and August, right? Like that's maybe a few more, but like almost a game every 2 days. Like playing 6 more games on the actual terrain is, it's 6 games. When people have 20, 30 practice games, right? 30 again, like it's a big chunk. It's actually really valuable this year.
Sorry, is the plan to take the same list though, or are you going to still take that same approach of not playing a teams list and playing a singles list, which is a bit different in a different way it plays?
Hasn't been discussed yet. More than likely, again, if it's stuff like guard goes pew pew, I think we'll probably just
I'd expect us to take some variation.
Yeah, but other like anything that I think has some sort of secret tech or some sort of janky stuff, I would expect us to change up or not play. But like certain armies, you can just play and you don't give anything away.
I'm painting my 276 crew as we speak.
Hot.
Just getting it ready. Yeah.
Are they battle line, mate?
No. It's just spread for everyone.
You've made a mistake, my dude.
Yeah.
I mean, Alex has made many mistakes along the way. Let's be real, okay? I mean, let's be real. So that's okay. So Greek Alex, so you go in there, support stuff. What's your role supposed to be there? And what are you looking to do? Like, have you been talking to the other coaches and stuff like that, or what you're expected to do? Or
well, I think one of our biggest successes was coaching last year. So one of the great things is we already have the foundation really set. We had a strong group, and we had actually quite a large group. Soli, you'll be able to correct me if I'm wrong, but compared to some other teams, we had a large group there that we could do, and we've actually just expanded it. So being able to have that is just huge. For me, I'm just excited to, we do have pre-existing coaches on the team, some that are even now a player, but we do also have, our head coach, which we can just leverage on and work out things and go from there. But all of us have, key design. All of us are going to be starting to look at some of these factions that are coming out, and we're just going to be trying to be the best support we can possibly be.
Yeah, because I understand is that yourself, so there's 8 players and there's 5 coaches. So Denise, Dean Sinbeck, Ben Way. Who are the other 2? Yourself, and who is the other last one?
And Ben.
Oh, okay. I
think the other Ben. 2 Bens.
2 Bens.
Oh, Ben Warrior.
Ben Warrior.
Of course. Yeah. The 2 Ben W's, right?
2 Ben W's, actually, yeah.
Yeah, there we go. So how have you guys been preparing? So obviously, as we discussed, 10th edition's on the horizon, 9th edition's been gone. But how are you guys preparing for this? So Brodie, maybe you can answer, like, what's the vibe been like? Have you guys been just chilling and sort of waiting for things to come out? Or have you been like anticipating playing? I know the Canadian team's been playing Tempest of War games to get used to playing with cards and stuff like that.
Jeez, I don't hate myself that much to play some Tempest games, but yeah, we're kind of constrained a bit because obviously we only have limited information, right? We only have what has been on previews. There's a few leaks of different factions and stuff, but nothing. Like I haven't signed an NDA. I have no idea what I don't have points. I have no idea whatsoever. So the couple of things we have done. So like Alex and I played a couple of games the other day, just based on the core rules are uploaded, plus the Leviathan indexes and stuff. So like you can play games already based on what's online. Just substituting like 9th ed points or something like that, and it's just going to be ballpark, just to get into the mechanics and particularly experiment with some of the main changes to the core game, like fight and charge phase movement, Overwatch, and a few of the other really strong strats like rapid ingress. How you kind of interact with characters now they're leaders rather than moving around on their own, and that kind of thing that really does help inform how we take the next step. So if you fast forward a week from when we're recording this, we'll have all the points and all of the indexes, and so you can essentially just I think for probably Saturday this week you can basically just go in full like Super Saiyan prep mode where you just go into a time capsule and grind out 100 games of 40k. But what you can do before that is like how do you actually build a list with like characters that you need to function, like even from the 500 point game we played the other day, I already found that like how the hell do I play a Farseer when they can only attach to a Guardian unit and Guardians just get turbo deleted by anything? So you basically can't protect a Farseer. Like how do you so that will really inform how going into the next stage of prep, how I think about list building already. So there's definitely a lot of value in the early stages, so that when we hit the the full speed prep and get all the info in a few days, we kind of have ballpark. And I think we've got our obviously all our group chats and discords and stuff that we're using internally to communicate, and each of us is kind of working through different factions and indexes to try to pull out some of the obvious combos, maybe go a little bit deeper beneath the surface and stuff. And over time, we got to like layer all the different things together of like not just what is obvious, really strong, powerful combos to max damage, but then how do you build a list that does missions? Do we play tactical or fixed? What are the potential terrain maps and stuff for WTC? What missions are we likely to play? And then, finally, like, what is everyone else going to be playing? Like, what is the meta going to look like that you can start, gearing up towards? So then there's a lot of kind of layers that we need to work through, and we're probably just at like kind of layer one, where it's like, what are the core game mechanics, and how does a game of 40k look and work, and like how, what do we need to adapt going?
Especially when it comes to scale, right? Like, because I mean, we've been able to practice on small scales like 500,000. Assuming quite a few different things as well, right? But fate dice mechanic, amazing, especially on a 500 point.
I think Alex and I did like 30% of our total damage with Overwatch usages in our practice games.
Yeah, it's just crazy. So things like that, right? And then once we see that to scale, I think that's when it's going to really amp up. So yeah, watch this space in a week or so, and it's going to be insane.
Yeah, that's very interesting. So, Matt, how are you guys like breaking things down? So, obviously, for example, for the public, the Chaos Demons data sheet came out. What would be the process for Team Australia to break this all down? Would you yourself and like another Team Oz member like go through it all and like discuss combos and stuff with each other, or is it something else?
Yeah, so that's kind of started happening, right? And look, a lot of this is pending points because this is one of the big things. I think Brodie already touched on it before with like the Farseer example, right? A Farseer can be the best unit in the game, but if a Farseer can only join a unit of Guardians and needs line of sight to do its stuff, and if it's in a unit of Guardians and they just die, that Farseer is kind of trash. And we've noted a lot of these things where like, well, this combo is kind of cool and this character is kind of cool, but they only go in to crap units, and therefore that character is kind of useless. That's like the first thing that we've really noticed is going to be a thing. There's a lot of characters that have great rules that you just won't see played, just because the units they go into are terrible. But like, beyond that, it's just like identifying, hey, these are some cool things you can do. Then it is sort of a process of waiting for points, which we'll get on Saturday morning our time. And for us to go and say, hey, this is this many points, this is this many points. You kind of have to like re-baseline everything. Like right now, like we can think of things that are like 100 points in a good unit. It's kind of easy. You can think of yourself, hey, this is a unit that's 100 points and it's good. But if everything goes up 30%, we've just got to be ready that like, something might be 150 points. And we might say, well, that's a bit steep. But actually, it's all relative. So we need to like re-baseline everything in terms of how good units are for their points cost. And then we need to start looking at, as Brodie kind of said, like, not only does this combo work, does this combo help you play the missions, score, kill stuff, whatever it might be, but how does it play secondary missions? How does it play into the wider meta? So it's kind of like, we're just going through and breaking down combos now, but all of this information is kind of irrelevant until we have points, because I can sit here and say, well, hey, Be'lakor making Greater Demons untargetable is busted. But if Be'lakor comes out at 500 points and a Keeper of Secrets comes out at 400 points, it's not good. Like, it's just not good, right? But then, by the inverse, Be'lakor comes out at 250 and Keepers come out at 150. Not that that's going to happen. Like, please don't. That'd be terrible. But all of a sudden, we're all playing Monster Mash, right? So it's totally relative, to the baseline points cost, what everything is worth. But for the time being, it's just like dissecting what you can do and what cool combos you can come up with and how you like extract the most value out of the data sheets. Then it's going to be overlaying that with points cost, deciding, which data sheets deliver value for their points cost. And then how does this army play the game? Like, can it, score primary? Can it score secondary? So I'm, really, really big on armies that play the mission, armies that score well, armies that have tricks to let you steal primary or score secondaries you have no business scoring, or things that like, resurrect out of phase to steal primary points, things like that. And then it's like pricing and I guess that jank into that whole list of like, is this combo good? Is this unit priced well? Does it play the mission well? And I think from there you come up with a good list of armies that are going to have play generally, and from there, it's just like writing the best 2,000 point list out of those units and combos.
Yeah, that's awesome. And like, we'll have a bit of time between when the WTC, I guess, when 10th edition is released and the WTC list deadline. So you'll get to see some events and like where people are going. But traditionally, Australia's sort of taken a unique approach. Like, yes, we'll play the meta armies or meta styles, but we'll often change things like 500 points here or there to accommodate and try and do something unique. How are you going to try and fit in the time to find the meta and find the good stuff while adjusting things? How are you going to try and do it? Or you're just not going to play the meta version of things?
Oh, we'll look at what's winning events. We'll look at what other people that we think are good are playing. Like, I'm not just going to go and look at who wins some random 30-player GT in Kansas and act like that's going to be the Bible for what our Eldar list should look like, for example, right? I think we have got some really good list writers in the team and around the team, and we've got some excellent players in and around the team. And I think that one of the things we do really well is we understand what's important. Like, we understand that it doesn't matter how many guns you've got if your opponent, hides. It's stuff like that. So I think that we'll be inspired by other people's lists, and we'll look at other people's lists and we'll change things. But I also think we're going to identify pretty quickly if they're look, there are scrub stomp lists that exist now that are, good for 4-1 or good for 5-1 or whatever they might be. And a lot of the best players will tell you, well, this isn't good for all of these reasons. And I think we'll identify those sort of those traps pretty quickly and not invest too much time and effort into just building the best list that can shoot someone dead if they stand in the open, but rather the best list that can actually play the mission, score points, deny their opponents points, do what's actually important to winning the game.
Yeah, that's sweet. No, it's good to know, and like excited to see what happens. Greek Alex, so you've been part of the team now, and I'm sure you've learned a bunch of lessons along the way. What have been some of the biggest things you've learned? Obviously, you're part of the team in New South Wales last year, and you've won some big events and been around like, the top echelon of players. But being in this Team Oz side with some of Australia's best, what has been some of the biggest lessons and things you've learned?
I think most of it is around the upper echelon of quality of roasting that we can do to each other. The chat is 80% roasting and then 20%, productive. So that would be probably the biggest takeaway by far.
We've actually had to create separate game chats because we were losing too much quality discussion in memes. I'm not even joking.
Yeah, it's good fun. But aside from all that, realistically speaking, it's you got to have a really nice deep dive of people's analytical minds, as we go through. We've had so many factions already, all the chaos indexes, all the cards, released. We've had, all the Marines alone is huge, right? And that took a lot of time. But, having all this information and just being able to look at it, pragmatically analyze it and go from there and seeing how everyone's minds work is cool. It's good, and you can bounce ideas off each other as well. You can actually genuinely challenge. And I think that's something that, the team isn't a team of just yes people or anything like that. We'll actively challenge to grow and understand and make sure that we can develop. So it's probably that, but I'd say mostly roasting.
That's the key to victory, right? Just memes and just putting everyone down. That's the Australian way, right?
Yeah.
Maybe ACT were on the way, right? That's maybe they were onto something good they didn't realize, just making memes, and maybe that's just need to keep going, and then maybe
you guys just stopped at that point, yeah.
Oh, well, maybe. So Brodie, so yourself in the UKTC, you played against what would be known as known players and known names, and at WTC, I know a bunch of people who would have that privilege or opportunity to play against people from Team USA who make content for Art of War or various content creators. What advice would you give to a new player who plays against someone with a known name per se?
Yeah, I think something that I've seen coming back to Australia is I kind of came back, a little bit full of myself, thinking I've played against I spent all these tournaments playing against Vic, VJ, David Gaylord, Manny, blah blah blah, back to back and kind of grinding in that space, and I'm like, Australia can't be that hard. And I think that the really interesting thing that I found that kind of contrasts the UK and Australian tournament scene is that the UK is it's a very meta chaser hungry environment. So you get because of the cost of 40k is much lower. It's about probably 40, 50% lower, probably genuinely half price compared to what we pay. They have access to everything on Forge World right there. Like literally, they never have supply chain issues because everything is made in Nottingham. So, you'll have people rocking up like to these tournaments, not even the top 10, but like the top 50% are playing these like bleeding edge, perfect tuned meta lists from only ALS tier codexes, and they're there to, go 3-2 and 4-1 without actually getting good at the game. Whereas Australians don't play like that. You go to tournaments and people are usually playing the same armies. They're often, meme a little bit more. They're there to have a bit more fun. The cost and supply chain issues mean that, you're just not likely to have someone like I felt guilty when I was playing guard rocking up with like the filthiest, like 30 Kazakhstan 9 Sentinel bullshit. And I'm like the only person in a tournament like doing that. But the difference is that I think Australian tournament players are much more focused on the mechanics of 40k, and that really permeates the Team Australia that I've seen, which is really really interesting. Is that like discussions aren't around lists; they're like fight phase mechanics, and they're like deployment and mission play, and kind of macro decision making around like how to build a list that wins games on primary and secondary, rather than how to build a list that just kills everything. So back to your question about like what advice would I have, it would be that just remember that most of these content creators and guys that are famous for being high up in the ITC rankings or whatever, a lot of the time they're up there because they're good at working out and solving a meta, and that meta is usually narrow. And in the UK context specifically, it gets so narrow that it's an individual terrain set and 4 specific missions. So the kind of skill set of these players to adapt is I think much lower to a degree. Whereas Australian players that much more focused on fundamental game mechanics and kind of adaptability, like playing well no matter what army you're using, and quite frankly some of the pretty bad terrain that we have in some Australian events, like it creates better players I think at a baseline than what you see in the UK. So that's a big difference, and certainly the way to get better at better at 40k isn't to just like go look at Goonhammer articles about what just won a GT. It's like go understand why Unit X is being used, or like how to particularly basic deployment and fight phase, like charge and fight phase movement. People just don't talk about online or whatever at all. Like no one on Reddit is talking about how you can move block stuff or whatever. They're talking about like why Kazakhstan are bullshit because of mortal wounds, right? And I think that's the difference. So don't get too worried about content creators that have just gotten very good and very efficient at solving a very narrow type of game, and just repeating that over some very large events and farming ITC points.
It's like when people try to be that whole Warden's list that Liam made, right? Like it didn't transfer correctly because it's
all these top UK players like literally are laughing at when they're like, quote unquote Australian meta, or all that kind of stuff. But genuinely the skills are, I would say, stronger for most players in Australia than UK. They just kind of think that because they can pump out the like most bullshit list the week after a codex drops, so that's a skill. It's not, it's like, God, I lost count of the number of times I'd rock up to like tournaments a week after the Orc codex drops and every Orc player has 18 fucking buggies. It's like, and still going 3-2. It's like, guys, just get better.
Damn, I thought I was supposed to take all my competitive advice from competitive 40k on Reddit. Fuck, I've been doing it wrong this whole time. Oh, well. So, Solly, yourself, so you've played across many international events and played against some of the big names. What advice, like, I know people can get easily intimidated by people who've got a name. What advice would you give to, I guess, the younger members of your squad if you're playing against someone say like a Manny Chima, a Tony V, like Jack Harpster, John Lennon per se, or even like someone from Poland like Skark, who's someone who's renowned for being a very good player and been around a long time?
It depends on what they got a name for, right? Like, there's a couple of different answers this way goes. Like, so for example, I played Nick Nanavati round of 8 at LVO this year. and it was one of the best games I've ever had. Like, it was an incredibly, tactical and really high level and like really interesting game. And that was great. And like, there's probably a little bit of mutual respect there. So I don't expect that people sort of playing those guys for the first time would have that. What I think the best thing to do is to like really clarify expectations at the start of the game, explain how you want to play the game, explain, like I said, if you're gonna, like, my general advice will be, say you're gonna play by intent and like stick to it. Don't try and gotcha players like that, because generally they just know the game better than you. Like, whenever I have someone do that sort of shit to me and they try and gotcha me, I'm just like, well, man, I know the rules better than you do. I'm gonna get you back, and it's gonna be worse than the one you just got me on here. But really, like, clarify expectations and then like give it a red hot go. Like, people aren't gods, people drop games all the time. Like, people like, famously talk about how Eric had that massive win streak a couple of years ago. It had to end. He's lost games since then. It's not like these people don't lose games. I dropped a game to some dude I've never heard of in Queensland a couple of months ago just because, a few bad things happened, right? Like, he played solid and, a few things didn't go my way and I lost the game because of it. Like, play solid, clarify your expectations, make sure that you're sort of on the same page with whoever you're playing against. And yeah, don't don't sort of talk yourself out of the win before you start playing the game.
Yeah, sure, that makes sense. And like, they've got the exact same rule set as you, and they've got the exact same access to you as well. Like, they're no better than you per se. There's nothing God gifted per se. Like, yes, they might have more practice or might be their job, but doesn't mean you can't win that game at all. So, I guess something you mentioned there. So, obviously, you have relations with Art of War, Soli, and so yourself, Alex, as someone who's recently joined as a coach. How is it? So, I know traditionally Team Australia sort of keep things behind closed doors a bit and a bit secretive at times as a competitive advantage for us. But how is it trying to manage that relationship with, like, I guess, your Art of War coaches and friends heading into WTC, as well as like potential clients who may be on opposing teams' WTC team or like looking forward to it?
I think there's mutual respect there, right? While we obviously represent one brand, we obviously represent another, and there hasn't been any talks of what, as an example, Team USA is doing that they've talked to me about, and there hasn't been any talks of what we're doing in Team Australia. Like, there's just a mutual respect. We have a love for the game. That's a lot of the reason why everyone's there, and this is going to be shaping up to be an amazing opportunity for us all to meet up and pit against each other, but in a friendly way. So it's. Yeah, I don't see it being an issue myself on my experience at least, but Matt can talk more about it if he wants.
Yeah, I just don't tell clients what I'm playing for WTC. No one asks, but like, if anyone does, I just don't tell them what I'm playing. Like, usually I'm more focused. Like, if people are paying me for my time, they're normally more focused on what they're doing than what I'm doing. Just try and sort of keep the conversation steered that way and help them with whatever they're working on, rather than like, it's no use me telling someone what I'm playing and how I'm playing something if they're not playing the same army. It's not really valuable for them anyway. So I just try and keep focused on what my clients are working on themselves rather than what I'm doing.
Yeah, sure, that makes complete sense. And like, keeping that mutual respect between you, because at that level you guys know a lot of things and just keep secret information behind closed doors per se that you want to keep secret. So that makes complete sense. One of the funny things we happened sort of last year was during the Qatar FIFA World Cup, Team Australia did a post saying how all these soccer athletes aligned with other Team Australia members. So like, Harry Suter was one of the players, like one of the famous centre backs for Team Australia. But what sort of famous professional sporting, I guess, group or even like esport per se, Team Australia looking to align with this year? Maybe, Brodie, do you have any aspiring people you're going to align with? Are you like a Liam Hemsworth you're aspiring to be with from 4, or like, what's going on?
Yeah, I didn't know.
You got it wrong, Sam. It's Chris Hemsworth.
Yeah, wrong Hemsworth. Yeah, I don't know. I actually I find myself like super out of the loop with all the jokes and stuff, man. Like, some of the memes that are all over the WTC team chats. I'm like I wake up some mornings and there's like 37 memes of Soli's toe, and I literally have no idea what that means and why it's funny, and I'm too afraid to ask at this point because it's like a long-standing running joke, and so yeah, I have no idea, man.
Go check the Team Poland 40k Facebook page. Go find their post from before today. It's pretty good.
Okay.
With the zinger.
No. Go find the video I posted on the Ogre dude. You're asking the wrong person, Sam, because Chris Wright wrote that post, believe it or not. That, commentary came from Chris. I didn't know Chris had it in him, but it was an incredible zig, and I was very proud of him.
That is very good for Chris Wright, the Terminator himself. But Matt, do you think you can align something that Team Oz aligns with, or heading into this year? Nah, just have to ask Terminator.
I don't know, like... Man, I didn't write the post. Ask Chris.
Sure, that's completely fair. Completely fair. Well, that's something you can answer, Matt. Someone who's always down for a bet of sorts, or always down for something. Have you got any bets heading into this year that for other teams? Is there some toes being sucked, or what's going on?
No, we don't. But I did spoof my GPS location to Belgium the other day to check if Uber Eats would deliver me a Zinger box to the venue, and they will. So I'm going to get one delivered to Typhus round 1 of the event. I'm going to get Uber to come and drop me off a Zinger box.
There we go. Finally delivering on that bet 1 year later. Happy days. There we go. Happy days indeed. So obviously, last year, Team Oz won the Best Sports Award overall. Is there some expectations you guys are going to try and win it again, or is it sort of expected to be that be like a good human being on the tabletop, and if it happens, it happens? Maybe Matt, you can answer.
You can't really play for that. Like, you can't go out of your way to do that sort of thing. But I like to think we've culled people in the past for not really representing our values very well, and I think that everyone here does. We'll see how Brodie goes. I haven't watched him play a full game yet. So
spent a lot of time in the UK sweatbox, so I might have.
That's it.
Like, picked up some bad habits.
This can go both ways, right? There are some habits that might have been picked up from certain Denif adjacent looking. But
just watch out for the water bottles, just make sure we don't move.
No, he's fine. The water bottles aren't a problem. It's more, I'm going to stop. I think that we take things very casually, and Jeremy and I will joke about this all the time, but we were zinging the shit out of everyone during pairings. We were popping up Mind Goblins, Ligmas, Sugmas, Tugmas, Rubmas, fuck your mums, whatever. We were popping all of these things off during pairings, and everyone loved them. And I think that, while I'm not suggesting that the secret to winning Best Sports is to talk shit to your opponents during pairings, I think that being laid back and being relaxed when you've got 4 and a bit hours to play your game, you've got a lot of time, you don't need to sweat, you don't need to, freak out. You can kind of play a very chill game. I think that's what some other teams don't do super well, is they get really, really intense. And not only is that not good for performance, because you make mistakes and you're overanalyzing, you freak out as soon as one little thing doesn't go your way and whatever. I just think we bring a really good, positive team vibe, and I think the team makeup is similar enough to last year that we're going to have the same sort of team vibe. So I wouldn't say we're going for it. We're not trying to win Best Sports, but we're also trying to be pretty decent human beings and not be assholes and make sure our opponents have a good time as well as us.
Yeah, fantastic. And I think it's just part of expectations, right? Like 40K has evolved so much over time that you need to be a good human being per se at the tabletop, and the WTC really enforces it to almost like gotcha hammer and stuff like that, and play by intent and do things. So they've reinforced it over time. So Greek Alex. So obviously the WTC is like a massive time commitment, and I'll get you guys all to answer this one. In terms of preparation and stuff like that, and especially with the short turnaround time, like time is precious and time is money. So how are you looking to try and balance this preparation dedication for the WTC while managing a social life, while managing your own personal life and work and stuff like that? Like, how are you looking to try and manage this massive time commitment while fulfilling the other needs of being a human being, I guess?
Just let the rest collapse, to be honest. It's fine.
Yeah, I'm taking time off work.
Yeah, I think it's okay. Look, the obviously the time that we're going to be away, is similar and akin to going on holiday, right? You're not going to have those other commitments, around you, unless you brought, say, your significant other or something like that. But yeah, this is realistically, a 2-week holiday with the guys. We're going to do some competitive 40K as well. This is going to be amazing and great fun. So that side, and I'll remove, but for everything in prep, probably won't be able to play Diablo 4 for a while. you know, or anything else. But that's fine. You know, this is something that we love, so we kind of know what we're in for, and you know, it'll be good fun. I mean, we're going to be having a great time where all of us are flying down to be in the same state, which will be great. We're going to be hanging out for a few days, so yeah, it's going to be awesome. It makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, I would add to that this is basically the most exciting time to be a absolute 40K lunatic, because we've, I'd be doing this anyway, right? Like deep diving all the indexes and working out what to do, like this wild speculation. Like the best week of my year was always like the 3 days before and after the balanced data slates. Just seeing all the churn and like, the excitement, like I remember even before I joined Timor's back in the UK, like I had all these like different group chats, and I'd be playing games against like David Gaylard or Vic or whatever to practice and like talking about new builds or what direction we think the meta is going, and that's a really exciting part of 40K in and of itself. And we get like the main event of the whole edition is the start. So it isn't like a chore. This is a really fun exercise to go through over the next kind of couple of weeks, really trying to analyze and work out the edition with the like overlay of the competition and really going straight to the cutting edge, playing against the other best players in the world to defend the title. So it's got that really kind of cool movie like Rocky montage kind of vibe to it, I think, over the next few weeks.
Haven't they kicked you out of that group chat yet? You're still in it.
I've just changed my name and they don't know.
Just change to like Matt Robertson, just being the most generic person ever, or something like that, or something obnoxious, or not obnoxious, but anonymous. There we go, something anonymous. How about yourself, Matt? So obviously, someone who, I understand you've got a obviously prolific job, something that's intense. How do you try and balance all this time between it's a hobby, but something you are very passionate and dedicated towards, and real life?
So like work's not too bad. You just take a little bit of time off work, and it does make it very intense with the whole like I take a week off work. I'm not really taking a week off work. I'm doing 2 weeks of work in the week before I go away, and then I'm not doing work for a week. So it's not really like taking time off. But look, again, similar to what Brodie said, like a lot of this stuff you'd be doing anyway, it definitely ramps up. Like last year before WTC, I would have Jeremy or Matt Jackson at my house 4 nights a week playing games. I was playing 8-9 games of 40K a week, in the month leading up. Just like you have to pound games out if you want to be, in perfectly fine form, ready to go. It's tough. Like you got to make a lot of time free, but at the same time, I typically have a little bit of a rest after WTC. I do the same thing after LVO. I didn't play a game after LVO for 6 weeks or something like that. It was a bit of time off. So it's just, get all the prep in, kind of climaxes with this really big, exciting event, and then take a bit of time off and kind of recover afterwards is sort of my approach to it.
No, that makes complete sense. So we mentioned before, Alex, so it sounds like you guys are going to spend like a whole week before the event to try and get together and play some games. Is that true? I know that was something that happened last year and was part of the big pivotal success.
Yeah, we are taking some time to spend together. I mean, partially for team bonding as well and getting ourselves, all across it. Partially as well just to actually talk game plans and then actually do reps and practice and work everything out. So we've got that lined up, and yeah, we're really excited for it.
Yeah, sweet. That's awesome. Is it going to Simon or Eric's house, or are you finding a mutual venue, or people coming to Victoria now?
We've got a couple. We've got the Brisbane team event. Then I think we're all aiming to play in at least one event early in 10th.
Yeah.
And
then I think we're all going to Melbourne for a few days before we fly out to Europe to just do the final grind.
Yeah.
Yes, sweet. So one thing that's obviously known about Australia, like other countries like the US as well, where it's like a massive landscape and it's hard to connect people from place to place. It's expensive and like distance is enormous. How do you try and manage that? So obviously there's members from Queensland, New South Wales and Victoria, part of the team. How do you guys try and manage playing and getting practice reps in when other smaller European countries will have the luxury of not being as far away. So I know Brodie, obviously being in New South Wales, you got Greek Alex and Chris, right, which is obviously an hour away per se. But how you help manage that?
The key is to pick players in clumps, like to get players together. You can't pick one person from SA, one person from the Northern Territory, one person from WA, and expect it to work. You have to have players in clumps. We're pretty fortunate that the best players in the country are typically on the East Coast. Sorry, everybody else, but that just is what ATC results say, right? So it must be true. The thing this year, what the concern is, right, is last year we had just Chris from New South Wales and we had Macca as a coach, and that was already proving to not be getting Chris the practice that he needed. So he had to fly to Queensland a couple of times to play practice games at Eric's place, just because he could. Nothing wrong with Josh, right? But Josh can't be there to play 5 different armies for Chris at a really high standard all the time. It's just not what we were expecting out of our coaching team last year. But this year we've got 3 of us in Vic, and fortunately, I can play a lot of stuff for Jeremy, and Dean plays a lot of things for both of us. We've got a good lot of factions covered down here. In New South Wales, we've got a bigger group this year. And again, when you've got 2 coaches in New South Wales between Ben and Alex, they can kind of spend an afternoon figuring out how to play an army if they really have to give somebody a rep on that army. And then obviously we've got not only the team in Queensland, but we've also got the wider team who aren't playing this year, but are still sort of, Team Australia adjacent, right? If anyone really wants to rep into Tower, Hayden Walduck will give them a game. So we're pretty lucky in that we've got 3 major hubs, and we sort of have players that can play most things there. But making sure you get everyone together in the same room a couple of times is really important when you're this far away.
Yeah, that's great, and that makes sense. Someone who's, I guess, far away, but is coming to WTC this year is Team New Zealand. So obviously, generally Anzac brothers, but people we have generally a rivalry with. Brodie, are you ready to just smash some New Zealanders and Kiwis?
Well, funny you should say that, because back in my day when I was playing a lot of 4th and 5th ed, and we used to have a tournament called Liber Animus, which was an invite-only event where basically it was maybe the top 40 or 50 players in Australia, and then we used to get about 10 of the Kiwis over, and they absolutely smashed us. There used to be a really good core of 6 or 8 really strong New Zealanders, and I think they won an ATC one year as well. Yep. Around that time. So yeah, I don't know what it's like now, because I haven't seen any of the New Zealand guys since I got back, but yeah, I definitely have imprints of some of the New Zealand guys absent for a few years there.
You don't have to worry,
you
mate.
Get one back if they're falling off.
That's it. Going. You don't have to worry.
Yeah. Well, you might know a thing or two, right, Matt? You may have done some coaching, right, with those lads, but no, the team that's going. There's only David Gaylard. He's not even living in New Zealand, right?
He's stopped playing for Team New Zealand.
I'm pretty sure he is.
Didn't he found Team New Zealand? Yeah, I
thought he was playing for Team England.
No. He's the reason New Zealand are playing. He's advocated for it. I might be talking shit.
Okay, I know what's happening next year, because I know all the decent players are going to go next year. I was under the impression that he wasn't going this year. Oh, yeah, I'm wrong. Happens sometimes. Happens to the best of us. See, the guys who do content creation get shit wrong sometimes too. It's fine.
It's okay. We'll forgive you this one time. So something that's been about part of Team Oz is sort of keeping that secrecy and stuff behind closed doors. I know other teams are trying to do international tabletop simulator scrims. Do you think that's something that maybe Australia will do in the future? Is some of those TTS scrims against other countries, get those 8v8s, or do you think Australia has that quality already naturally within, that you can get that high quality reps within? Maybe Matt, you can answer, because that's someone who's been part of the Team Oz team for a while now.
I don't know. We may as well load up and play Dota, right? It's TTS is not 40k. I don't think we have a lot to gain, personally. Back when Brad was the captain of the US, he wanted us to go to a pre-event US scrim, and I actually think we give them more than we get by doing that. I think, I know it's been floated. I was speaking to the person who's going to be the captain of New Zealand next year by all accounts, and they're pretty keen to fly over and do a weekend, here doing some training with us, and then sort of fly over as a unit. And I think that we don't give much away by playing New Zealand in their second year with probably a pretty subpar team, and we get to do some full 8 team prep and some proper pairings prep, and something like that, maybe is valuable. Like, obviously geographically they're the only real choice. No one else can really fly to Australia before we all fly out to do large format team prep. But any of the serious competitors, I don't really think we want them to see how we pair. I don't think we want them to see what we put into what list. Like, we don't really want them to even know how the results of games go. We don't want them to know that, hey, our Eldar player played their demon player and we thought we were going to get a small win, but we got a big win. We don't want them to know that information.
This year in particular, I think that's amplified because of the nature of the new edition. I suspect it's going to be very rock, paper, scissory meta based on what we've seen so far and some of the interactions with different keywords like anti-infantry, anti-vehicle are the most obvious, but there's going to be some very skewed results, I think, from lists, and we're all frantically trying to work out what those are and what they in turn counter and how they play the mission and all that kind of stuff. So there's going to be cases where people find the silver bullet first or some variation on it, and obviously we want to be the people through really structured analysis and practice and all that kind of stuff to kind of uncover those first and really think about the game in a with a really analytical approach. But there, we have to be ready for the fact that there are going to be things that we're not prepared for and we get just absolutely wrecked that we didn't expect. And kind of I would back ourselves to be the kind of to win more of those than we lose. And so scrimming in that way or really kind of giving any information is going to be a net, I think, net loss for us. Like we'd rather back ourselves to be the first team to find the jank bullshit and kind of at the start of an edition, it's going to be a lot of that. We wouldn't want to give it away.
I think from pairings as well, there's not really anyone else who's as good as our pairings team is, and we do lose Eric this year, and that's a big loss, to that team. But I don't think, again, once lists are locked in and we've got the PDF and everything that's come back out, like if we've fucked up and we've got lists that are bad, or if we don't have answers for certain things, it just is what it is. You can't change that. But you can look for creative solutions on how you sort of circumvent that and how you sort of push those bullies. Again, Serbia ETC is a really good example, as we didn't take Eldar flyers because we thought that everyone would have answers for Eldar flyers and that they'd be bad. But everyone just took Eldar flyers and we didn't take answers for them. And we got shit on them for 6 rounds, right? But we essentially had to bust into them because, we made that essentially bad meta call. But I think we don't want to give away how we would pair into problem lists for us or what, sort of would use to soak up information. It's not even about is our jank better at killing stuff or is our jank better at scoring missions? It's if they know that they put their Eldar up and we put our guard into it or whatever it might be, if they know that happens, that gives you control over pairings. That's really powerful information, that just hurts you if the team has that. And of course, you can pair like a moron on purpose to give them bad data or whatever in a scrim, but then you're not really getting any value out of the scrim anyway. So I don't see heaps of value to it at all, to be honest.
Sure, that makes complete sense, especially we're closer towards the event, that is as prime data as possible. But do you think that's the same approach when even post WTC, a month or two after, and almost 9-10 months out from the event, is that same opinion made that that data or the way we pair and the way players play is so vital that we don't even want to share that?
10 months out, probably not. The list don't really matter. The game changes.
Yeah, and the Australia actually has much more team event culture or much stronger team event culture than the US and UK anyway. To be fair, in my experience, all anyone cares about in the UK is ITC points. Whereas I've come back to Australia and I've played in 3. By the time I go to WTC, I will have played in 3 teams events and 4 singles, I think. So we've kind of already got an environment that enables practice at pairings and teams and matchups and all that kind of stuff that is a real advantage that they just don't. Most of the guys in Team England are going to be prepping for Warmaster to get their ITC points as much or more than they're prepping for WTC. You can guarantee it.
Plus, also 2 months out, if it's just been that long, or that short after the whole event, Simon's still obviously, beating Europeans, in Amsterdam and everything like that. So we can't, afford to do it.
Yeah, you guys won't even be back yet. You guys will still be partying 2 months.
Yeah, that's it.
After we get
we're
out,
going to
right?
lose McMillan somewhere, right? We're going to have to find him. It's going to take, it'll take a while. I've seen Hostel.
Find him in a hotel room, clothes soaked in piss,
Well, we're gonna find him somewhere, right? Just make sure the GPS location's on, right? I'll find my iPhone, but
I'm just gonna stick an air tag on him,
There we go. You mentioned there before, Matt, that obviously losing Eric this year is obviously a big loss because he's a big pairings wizard. But as well as Eric, you said unfortunately losing Simon and Hayden Walduck, as well as Matt Jackson, as well as some other support staff around it, like Pete Patel and Wayne Russell. So from last year's winning team, how big of an influence is that losing those guys? Like for people who aren't aware, like what is it losing those guys, and what did they bring to the team last year that we won't have this year?
So the coaches are definitely side grades, and it's not that the role isn't important. It's kind of that it's not necessarily a skill-based role. It's really a personality-based role. Like obviously the coaching in the lead up, the better the player is as a coach, the better value you're going to get from things like practice games. But on game day, like attitude is the only thing that's really important. It's like attitude and I guess character and upholding the brand in a good way is really all that's important. So like Wayne, Pete, great guys, and we would happily have had like the exact same lineup, player and coach wise go back this year if we could. But the coaches are definitely side grades. The players are really tough, right? We're going from losing Walduck, who's played 3 or 4. I think Walduck's played 3 events. Simon's played 4 like WTC events, and Eric's obviously a very big part of why we were successful last year. And losing those 3 as players really sucks. Again, Matt Jackson was like the last one in. He was a late replacement, and he did a really good job. But he was kind of like, not to put him down, he was like the best of what was available. He was kind of like that 8th guy in, and he knows this. Right? He was the last guy in because he was the absolute best option we had available at the last minute. But he was kind of like, I need a list written for me. I need to be told how to do my job. And this year, like Macca is probably going to be very similar to that. Macca was sort of like one of the last ones in. He's definitely going to get given a list and told how to do his job. And like, those sort of players are really important. Like Simon is one of those players as well. Simon, is a bit better on the list writing front, but he's just a soldier who goes and does his thing and gets his points, and he's really, really consistent. But what I think the big thing we lose is not player skill. It's really like experience and, having dealt with the personalities at ETC and the pressure of playing, for your country, like stuff like that. Again, it's not like it's too far removed from going to a GT and playing a tournament, but every game is hard. Every person in that room is, with some exceptions, really, really good. And having, Will and Alex are both, terrific players, and they'll do really well, from a gameplay point of view. But like the personality, point of view and like the how you hold up to the pressure is a whole different thing. And then, I don't know. You haven't played Brodie for another team at WTC, have you? You haven't played in even the singles events?
No.
Yeah. So I would presume for you it's going to be like very similar to like high level like LGT, like top cut LGT games, pretty much every game, right?
Yeah.
And it's a bit confronting, but I don't think we're down player skill. Like obviously, if Eric's in the pool, you play Eric, right? Like if Simon's in the pool, you play Simon. But I don't think that the players we have are much worse. I think that it's really personality and experience that we're going to be missing out on. And that's kind of like what we're trying to make sure that people are sort of ready for.
Yeah, that's very fair. That you got to make sure that personalities mend together and you prepare as much as you can. And look, the experience is going to be the experience. You can't prepare all the way through what an actual WTC or ETC is like, but people are going to learn somehow, right? And that's you throw them into the fire and they'll figure it out. So I guess, Alex, so this WTC for a lot of Australians is quite expensive. Can you give like a rough idea like how expensive it is? So because some people probably won't appreciate how expensive it is to attend. Like you don't have to obviously give a rough figure on your financial details, but like, can you just give like an indication?
Please send support to this BSB and account number. No, it's expensive. Yeah, I think especially for us, more so than a lot of other people, right? Obviously, New Zealand will be in the same boat, right? But it's a lot easier on two parts to get, other teams, especially European teams, to make the trek. Not only that, they also have a better structure to then, have the best players they have in their territory to actually go to the event as well. For us, it's different, surround availabilities, and this is a huge sink financially, time commitments as well, and then obviously for prep and lead up. Like you said, we're all in different segments, so we have to also then travel and communicate and try and build and grow from there. So it's not even just the travel there, it's not even just the accommodation there, it's also the travel to get in between us and do everything. But it's a significant cost, and we've had some amazing sponsors that have been able to help us get there, and we've had this huge raffle that we've been setting up as well, and there's still prizes to do. So guys, if you want to come support us and get there's literally over $5,000 worth of value in there, if not more, just pushing through. So it's a great thing to have. Just get into it, support us, get some cool things, and help us go there and make sure that we have the best team possible as well. We support the right team as well to get there, and we keep winning.
Yeah, absolutely. And links for the raffle odds and everything Team Oz will be in the description down below. So for people who can support, you can buy a raffle ticket for like $1 each. I'm looking at Matt just going, yes, yeehaw. I think it's $1 each or like $5 each, and you can win like a painted commission army by Hayden Walduck. Oh, and there's a new Eldar army there going up. So was there anything else you wanted to add to that, Matt?
Do what this guy says. No. There's some sick prizes. It's actually a really good raffle. I normally don't get around these things.
It's pretty wild.
If I wasn't putting the money back into my own pocket, I'd probably buy a couple of tickets, to be honest. It's super exy, like Alex said. I think this year, especially, flights are massively cooked. But as you mentioned, we've got some really great sponsors, and I think that one of the things we have to sort of worry about this year is, doing a good job for those sponsors. So hopefully we can sort of build some relationships in the future, and that the people who are going to be playing on this team in 5 years from now either have ongoing sponsor relationships with some of these guys, or we've sort of paved the way that other businesses are interested in supporting the team, because we didn't have any of that last year. The support this year is 10 times what it would have been same time last year.
Yeah, but definitely check those guys out. So before we wrap things up, so is there any final plugs or shout outs that starting with yourself, Brodie, that you want to have for people to listen or like to go and visit?
No.
No, all good.
Am I the only non-content creator on this on the podcast? Yeah, I think so. I'm just a
all good. How about yourself, Greek Alex?
For me, it's probably just giving a shout out to the sponsors that we have, if that's all right, if we can do a quick little shout out.
Absolutely.
Great. So we've got, I think, who is it? There's Gap Games, there's Arena Interventions, Northside Alliance, Wargamers Hub, Gamers Lair, Combat Company. All these guys have done amazing stuff to help us, support us, as well as everyone who's bought a ticket. So I want to give a huge shout out to you guys. And that's it.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I know the Northside Alliance boys. So this weekend they have an event, which is a fundraiser for Team Oz, and I'm sure there's a bunch of other events leading up to it, which are fundraisers. So, and a bunch of money, all that money goes towards Team Oz to help fund the trip. Matt, any final plugs or shout outs? Oh, sorry, Brodie, you want to say something?
I was going to say, I've just realized that I've spent like $500 at the Combat Company in the last month buying random stuff, getting ready for 10th without using the promo code. So please don't be like me. If you buy anything for 10th, use one of the promo codes that we have for one of those stores. So at least you'll get a discount, and some of the sale money comes to Team Oz. So
yeah, you owe the team. Yeah, you owe the team account like $5, dude. I'm going to come after you for that.
Yeah.
No. The only one is, if you don't already, Team Australia 40K on Facebook. We post some stuff on there. It's mostly shameless self-promotion at the moment. But right before the event, there's actually a lot of cool stuff we put up. We put up little round recaps. We get, one of our coaches to, walk around and show off all the tables, show off all the pairings. We sort of do a little round recaps. I'm not sure who's going to do it this year. It's probably going to be either Alex or Dean, I'd imagine. One of the coaches will do it. I don't know. Whoever feels the most photogenic on the day, I reckon. But there's some cool stuff on there. do it. Go and follow that page and look at all of our ads for raffle tickets. Eventually we'll get you. If you keep seeing the ad, eventually you'll click on it. You know, I have faith.
That's the marketing tech there, right, Matt? That's the way you do it. You just keep flashing things for people in people's faces and you get there eventually.
Not even joking. I had a meeting about exactly that today.
Well, there you go. There we go. Oh, thank you very much, guys, for your time. Really, really appreciate it. Best of luck for the WTC. I'm sure we'll be all involved leading up to it, and looking forward to more and more posts. And looking forward to that raffle to come out. So it draws July 1st, so I know there's still heaps of time, everyone, to get in and support the team. So thank you very much, and thanks to everyone for listening and watching. Have a great night, and hooroo.